Another thing I think you'll find it beneficial to practice is ascending arpeggios and descending through these scales. And the arpeggio that you can ascend is a 2 chord that would lead to the 5 chord. Now again, we've simplified the bebop concept by combining the 2 and the 5 chord into one and just playing all of the dominant sounding bebop lines over both chords. So in a particular tune where your 2 chord and your 5 chord are 1 measure each, that gives you a longer period to spin these lines out. It's pretty common that you'll hear arpeggios and scales kind of used that way. You know, ascend an arpeggio, descend the scale. Maybe the opposite of that as well, and I've tried to do a little of both of those in some of my videos. If we're in the key of F major, our 2 chord is going to be G minor, and the G minor chord from here, this 10th fret root, our G minor 7 is that structure. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th of the G minor chord. The 7th resolves down to one of the notes of our C7. And again, because the premise was we want to put our chord tones on the beats and then move through that bebop language, we're there. Now, you could take those and move up to the next partial, is what many people will call it. The next note of our G minor 7 chord is a B flat. So rather than going root, 3rd, 5th, 7, you'll hear 3rd, 5th, 7, 9. Now that note of the G minor 9 structure resolves down by step to a G, and that G is part of our C7 chord. So our line now goes the next note of that arpeggio is D, and from D we would play, this is the 5th of the chord, 5th of G minor, so we're playing 5th, 7th, 9th, that note is the 11th, and when you move down from that note a step, you're on B flat. Again, it's a note of our C7, so that line sounds like this. If you play those very same lines with the other version of the bebop scale, which I've introduced, this particular when I put the passing tone between the root and the flat 7 of our 5 chord. So in this particular one, over the C7 chord, I'm playing the passing tone between the root of the C7 chord and the 7th or flat 7 of that chord. So I'm playing a B natural between C and B flat. That gives us this sound. If I use the other version that I've kind of adapted from the major tonality or the key center of F, and I'm playing the note that is between 5 and 6 of the key, that passing tone is between the notes D and C, and I emphasize it by placing it on the beat, my line now sounds like this. From the 3rd of our G minor chord, and from the 5th, I would recommend using some rhythmic variation, and triplets are very effective and they're easy to incorporate. So I'm going to play G, B flat, D, and then move up to the F. And this will turn what sounds like a very academic exercise into something that's more musical. This is the target note that I need to get to. That's the 3rd of my C7 chord. So I'm going to find a way to, if I start on a beat or not on a beat, try to find a way to get that note onto a beat when I get to that resolution of the F down to E. So again, my G minor 7 chord goes up to F. F is the 7th, and it needs to fall to that E to get us locked back into the chord tones for the 5 on the beat. So I might do something like this: 2, 3, 4. Or 3, 4. Maybe I can start that on the and of the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I start on the next note of the chord, 2, 3, 4. Here it is again. So you can see that I'm turning the line around a little bit to put some emphasis on that note, and I'm skipping over it and coming back to it. You can do that with a chromatic note, E flat leading up to E. And you'll start to see that the more of these variations you put into your lines, the more interesting it becomes. Don't forget that we can incorporate these same ideas over the relative minor. So if I'm in the key of D minor and these are my chords, 2, 5, 1, I might play that note that I'm using as the passing tone is the leading tone to my D, and that's a sound that is very useful in the relative minor.